I should have worn body armor instead of linen when Jenna invited me to that executive brunch. By the third mimosa, she leaned across the rooftop table like a bargain bin Bond villain, sunglasses crooked, and purred. "You're too dependable to lead, Erica. You'd make a great support system." The word support hit harder than the July sun baking the shrimp skewers. I smiled like someone who just realized the guillotine wasn't for decoration. Jenna laughed at her own brilliance, clinked her glass against mine, and went back to picking basil out of her teeth like nothing had just detonated. Behind my polite nods and cucumber water calm, I was counting how many interns I had trained who now had better parking spots than I did. Jenna, freshly minted COO via marriage, not merit, had the audacity to call me safe. Safe like a beige Honda Civic. Safe like unseasoned chicken. Safe like a woman who hadn't worked unpaid overtime for 7 years, building the exact systems Jenna now got to break under her new title. By the way, since 97% of listeners ghost us like bad Tinder dates, smash that subscribe button. It keeps this petty little revenge engine running and makes all this chaos feel just a little more worth it. Now, back to your regularly scheduled betrayal. I didn't cry, didn't flinch. Just let her finish her speech about fresh blood while I stirred the melting ice in my mimosa. I'd heard that phrase before, usually right before a merger, a firing, or when someone's about to hire their cousin with a philosophy minor and a vape addiction. I raised my glass, toasted her success, and handed her my 2-week notice like it was a dinner mint. No speech, no drama, just a smile and the quiet knowledge that she'd mistake my exit for surrender. Truth was, I'd already started packing. Not boxes, documents, emails, Slack messages, screenshots, including the ones where Jenna called interns hot but hopeless, then deleted the HR memo like it never existed. I wasn't leaving a job. I was peeling back drywall on a termite nest. Her snub didn't hurt because it was unexpected. It hurt because I expected it. Jenna never saw me as a threat. Just another lifer in kitten heels with a color-coded Google Calendar and a drawer full of Tums. What she didn't realize is that some of us don't scream when we're angry. We build exit strategies. I spent 7 years making executives look smarter than they were. I was the ghost in the spreadsheet, the reason campaigns launched on time, the person who made sure Jenna never had to explain what gross margin meant to a journalist. Now I was just another fixture she wanted replaced, with someone who used disruptive as a personality and posted TikToks about synergy while outsourcing their email replies to ChatGPT. Fine, let her underestimate me. The brunch ended the way it started, with Jenna giggling and me nodding. Except this time, I had a mimosa in one hand and a printed resignation in the other. I set both gently in front of her like offerings to a queen too clueless to realize the peasants were armed. Her laugh faded. She looked at the paper, then at me, then back at the paper. Wait, what? "I'm done," I said. 2 weeks. "Erica," she tilted her head. "Are you serious?" "As a heart attack." I rose from my chair. "Enjoy the shrimp. Watch the basil." And with that, I left her blinking behind oversized sunglasses, wondering how the help just walked out mid-toast. I didn't look back. Because you don't look back when you're lighting a fuse. You ever seen a woman clean her desk with the calm of someone building a guillotine? That was me. Thursday morning, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like a warning. Everyone assumed I was winding down. Karen from marketing gave me a goodbye succulent. The VP of strategy asked if I'd circle back for a knowledge transfer. I nodded and smiled like a Stepford intern, then went back to exporting carefully selected files to a private Google Drive folder labeled Vacation Photos, because nothing says serenity like 12 gigabytes of financial irregularities and off-books intern contracts. Let's be clear, I wasn't stealing. I was preserving. Preserving every late-night deck I ghost wrote for executives who couldn't spell synergy. preserving time-stamped edits on the annual report, the ones that turned Jenna's cost-cutting initiative from smart budgeting into what looked suspiciously like laundering. I didn't take everything, just the parts I built, the parts she buried, the parts that proved I wasn't just support. I was the scaffolding holding up a very expensive lie. And then I called Claire. Claire Brenner, former roommate, karaoke assassin, and now a divorce attorney who wore red nail polish like war paint and billed in half-hour increments. Last time we spoke, she'd just won a case where the mistress got the dog, but the wife got the Porsche. She picked up on the second ring. Well, if it isn't the queen of lost causes. I have a situation, I said. It involves marriage, misconduct, and mimosas. Claire didn't miss a beat. Tell me everything. While she prepped her legal arsenal, I began what I called the inventory. Not of my desk drawers, that was just gum, stress snacks, and a retirement card someone signed, "Good luck at your next adventure," like I was going to summer camp. No, this inventory was names, dates, passwords, conversations I remembered word for word, access I still had. I scheduled exit interviews. Not with my manager. That would be too easy. I went to HR. Finance. Compliance. The holy trinity of corporate whispers. Wore my nicest blouse. Smiled politely. Spoke softly. I just want to share some feedback before I go. They nodded. Took notes. Didn't realize I was taking theirs too. Because if you listen carefully, if you really listen, people will hand you their dirt with a smile. One compliance analyst, bless her caffeinated soul, even leaned in and whispered, "It's been weird since Jenna got promoted, right?" I sipped my chamomile. So weird. And then came the call. On my iPhone, I had a contact saved under Julie's vet. Nobody questioned it. Julie was my imaginary cat. The vet? Jenna's husband? Dylan Price. He and I had history. Not that kind, but enough. During last year's PR meltdown, he was the only executive who didn't treat me like a chair with Wi-Fi. I saved his number, just in case. No words, just a ring, and then silence. I didn't speak. Neither did he. But the pause lasted long enough to mean something. Then I hung up. Controlled resolve. That's what they'd call it in a Netflix thriller. Rage under glass. What it felt like? Holding your breath while someone else walks toward the tripwire? Jenna thought she'd humiliated me over Eggs Benedict. She had no idea she was eating her last meal in a house I built and just quietly rigged for demolition. I wasn't done. I was just beginning the exit strategy. They scheduled the farewell lunch in the glass conference room. You know the one. Awkward view of the loading dock, fingerprint-smudged walls, a fake fern in the corner that somehow looked thirsty and dusty at the same time. Jenna stood dead center like a game show host, smiling too wide, blazer too lavender, and eyes darting for the spotlight. The farewell cake read, "Good luck, Erica," in grocery store frosting. They even spelled my name right this time, which somehow felt more insulting than the misspellings. After 7 years, all I got was accurate spelling and half-melted buttercream. The junior VPs lined up to say things they'd clearly Googled 5 minutes before. "You were really great at explaining stuff." "She taught me how to use the CRM twice." "She always had gum." They spoke like I was already dead. A harmless ghost in slacks who brought snacks to quarterly meetings and left spreadsheets color-coded like Easter eggs. No mention of the client I saved from suing us. No mention of the 72-hour campaign rebuild I pulled off after Jenna's vision board torpedoed the launch. Just empty platitudes from men who'd be fired by year's end and women who'd perfected the art of smiling through male mediocrity. Then Jenna took the floor because God forbid she share a spotlight. "Erica has been such a dependable part of this company," she said, dragging out dependable like it meant forgettable. "She's the kind of person you can always count on, like Post-it notes or decaf." Laughter, polite and practiced. I sipped water and imagined replacing her collagen serum with Gorilla Glue. She handed me a white envelope. Cheap cardstock, no company logo. Inside, a $50 gift card to Olive Garden. Not even a handwritten note, just the receipt. "Don't be a stranger," she added with a wink. I looked at her and thought, "You don't even realize you're already alone." I stood, thanked everyone, smiled like I'd just swallowed glass, said all the right things so no one would check my bag on the way out. And then, in the elevator, alone, I pulled out my phone and recorded a short voicemail. Not for nostalgia, for evidence. One mimosa, one lie, one deleted report. Timestamp this. Because while Jenna was handing me a gift card and a fake compliment, I was planting something. 3 confidential triggers, buried deep in the metadata of a project folder she accessed daily. Not malware, nothing illegal, just innocuous-looking files labeled like standard reports. But open one, it logged access time, IP, screen activity. Legal wouldn't care. Yet. But in about 6 business days, when a board member opened their inbox to a whistleblower packet, they'd want timestamps. They'd want logs. They'd want proof. Proof that someone had been covering up phantom intern payrolls and redirecting wellness reimbursements to ghost vendors. Jenna kept swiping everything under contractor disbursements. And those trigger files? Oh, they would sing. I walked out of that building not like someone saying goodbye, but like someone pressing detonate with their thumb hidden in their coat pocket. Everyone thought I was being gracious, mature, professional. They had no idea the storm had already started. Last year, during the TikTok campaign crisis, the one where an influencer compared our brand strategy to a Ponzi scheme with fonts, Jenna was conveniently offline at some women's leadership retreat in Sedona, sipping filtered smoothies and posting filtered selfies. Dylan, on the other hand, he stayed. He panicked. I stayed too, with 2 Red Bulls and a spreadsheet that could double as a manifesto. By morning, the crisis was over. The investor was calm, the campaign salvaged. Dylan called me the one who actually runs this place. He remembered that. So when I texted him from a burner app last Tuesday, just 3 words, "Let's talk soon," he responded in under 10 minutes. Time, place, no questions asked. We met at a half-empty cafe on the east side. One of those places where the baristas spell your name wrong on purpose to assert dominance. I ordered peppermint tea. Dylan got a black coffee and looked like he hadn't slept since spring break. "Didn't think I'd hear from you again," he said, watching the street behind me more than my face. "You're going to want to see this." I slid a folder across the table like we were in a parking garage doing spycraft. Inside, printed screenshots, payment summaries, and a beautifully indexed chart titled The Jenna Ledger, not even sarcastically. It tracked everything. Stipends routed through shell vendors, wellness reimbursements paid to interns who never existed, bonuses structured to look like hush money rather than merit pay. Dylan flipped through slowly, each page pulling a thread off his carefully ironed marriage. "Jesus," he muttered. "Not quite," I said, "but I did major in accounting." He kept reading, didn't speak. His jaw tightened as he hit the page with the payroll reroute. Funds meant for contractor stipends redirected to an LLC registered to Jenna's yoga instructor. "How long have you had this?" "A while." "And you're giving it to me now?" "Because I don't want revenge," I said. "I want leverage, and I think you do too." He looked up at me. No smirk, no suspicion, just something like resignation, or maybe clarity. "I'm going to make a call," he said after a moment. "You still trust Claire with my afterlife?" I nodded. "She's my attorney now." Just like that. One phrase, and Jenna's firewall had a crack the size of a trust fund. We didn't hug. We didn't toast. Just two people in button-downs sipping caffeine and trading chess pieces. Meanwhile, back at Ariston HQ, the smallest cracks began to show. Jenna's Outlook calendar stopped syncing. Her Slack threads disappeared mid-scroll. A deck she emailed the board came back corrupted, replaced with an older draft that exposed her redline comments. It was subtle enough to blame on tech gremlins, but not so subtle she didn't feel it. She started CCing herself on everything, double-sending files, snapping at a T. At one point, she even called the help desk and said, "It feels like the system's turning on me." I bet it did, because it was. Not through hacking. I didn't need to hack. I had something better. A network. Assistants. Developers. Junior admins. People who owed me favors or just hated Jenna enough to press the wrong button when asked. One swapped out her draft folder for a decoy. Another accidentally unsynced her Slack history. Someone flagged her Zoom link as phishing during a partner call, sent her straight to voicemail. Jenna thought she was being hunted by ghosts in the machine. She wasn't wrong, just not the kind she expected. The Monday after I left felt like waking up after a thunderstorm. Humid, quiet, and charged. I made French press, fed my non-existent cat, cover story, and pulled out my phone, not to check the weather, but to wait for the first breach in the dam. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't even curious. I was ready, in the deeply specific way only a woman underestimated for 7 years can be. It's not vengeance if it's methodical. It's closure with attachments. Right on cue, it began. Between 9:11 and 9:13 a.m., HR flagged a new anonymous submission in their internal portal. Title: COO, Misconduct. Urgent contents: 7 PDFs, 1 zip file, and a screen recording. It began with Jenna saying, clearly on camera, "Don't forward that to finance, they'll just ask questions." That recording? It was triggered the day of my farewell lunch when she opened the decoy folder. The IP matched. The voice was unmistakable. The timestamp fell squarely within her working hours. HR forwarded it to the board with the usual polite throat clearing. "Received this morning. Appears serious. May merit internal review." One board member, the same guy who never remembered my name but once complimented my fiscally responsible handwriting, replied simply, "Review immediately." Jenna probably thought she'd dodged a bullet. That morning, she strutted into HQ wearing white, actual white, like some kind of corporate purity cosplay. She told the receptionist she was ready to refocus now that the distractions are gone. She even gave someone a thumbs up in the elevator. She had no idea she was already in freefall. Didn't notice legal was CCing each other more than usual. Didn't notice that the head of compliance skipped their usual 10 a.m. stand-up. Didn't even flinch when her email permissions glitched, again. But she did notice when Dylan walked through the front doors. No badge, no smile. Just a tight jaw and a manila envelope in his hand. He walked right past reception, ignored the coworker who tried to say good morning, went straight into HR, without knocking. Cameras caught the whole thing. The way he gripped the folder like a weapon. The way he closed the door without a sound. Inside that envelope, a certified statement from his new attorney, Claire Brenner. A formal notice of divorce, and a summary of alleged financial misconduct backed by internal documents. Documents that Erica Shaw, during her tenure at Ariston, had come across and in good faith passed along. The head of HR asked if he wanted to sit. He didn't. "I just wanted to deliver this myself," he said. "You'll want to look into it thoroughly." Then he left. No dramatics, no goodbyes. By noon, the building buzzed like a hornet's nest dipped in gasoline. Jenna tried to act calm. She asked for kombucha, asked why legal was locked in a meeting without her, asked if it was doing another random sweep. No one answered. Back in my apartment, I refreshed the news. Nothing yet. Too early. I smiled and added oat milk to my coffee. Storms here. Let it rain. Jenna found out the way powerful people always fear, secondhand. Her assistant, poor sweat-stained Marcy, knocked softly and entered with the same look interns get before announcing that someone's mic was hot during a Zoom call where they called the clients a charity case with fonts. Jenna, I just wanted to flag something. Marcy held out a printed email. Printed. That alone should have tipped Jenna off. Nuclear-grade material is always printed. At the top, legal separation. Notice, Dylan V. Price. Signature, Claire Brenner. Escrew. Jenna's hand trembled halfway through reading, her face drained of its curated bronze. This is a joke, right? She said. Marcy shook her head and made herself scarce like she'd seen this episode before and didn't like the ending. Jenna stormed into HR, demanded answers. When they asked what she meant, she slapped the envelope on the table like a dead fish. He's using Brenner and Wallace? I blackballed them from this company years ago. They're banned. The HR director barely glanced up. That's odd, she said. They've had a compliance sub-office here for 3 weeks. Where? 5th floor. Jenna blinked. What? You approved the lease. She hadn't, or she thought she hadn't, but the system said otherwise. Time-stamped e-signature, internal memo, all legit. Only she'd never seen them. That's when she started to spiral. That afternoon, she accused 3 department heads of coordinating against her. She called a T into her office and asked if anyone had accessed her files while she was meditating. Yes, she used that word. Meditating. With a Spotify playlist labeled Power Focus and a lavender candle that smelled like wet drywall. By 3:00 p.m., her calendar was accidentally wiped. Her expense portal? Locked out due to compliance realignment. And then came the cherry on top. A folder appeared on her own desktop, labeled Legacy Access. Bam! Inside, 3 subfolders. Onboarding, conflict history, red flags, each one bearing her digital signature. Each one last edited 4 days after I left. That was impossible. Except it wasn't. The system didn't lie. Timestamps matched. Metadata pointed to her credentials. Her laptop. Her. She called it again. They ran diagnostics. No malware, no breach, one tech said, oblivious to the fact that she was one user error away from snapping a USB cord in half. No one accesses my files without me knowing, she hissed. The tech looked at the folder again. Well, someone did. The rest of the day, Jenna roamed the office like a ghost with Wi-Fi. Cold, glitchy, and glitching harder by the hour. She paced the halls like they were shrinking. Doors stayed shut as she passed. Conversations dropped to whispers. She barked orders. No one barked back. Her power didn't collapse all at once. It frayed, quietly, relentlessly, one thread at a time. Every tug revealed how little she had built herself. Meanwhile, upstairs on the 5th floor, Claire's new office door remained closed. But the lights were on. Then it happened. 8:12 a.m. sharp the following day. Jenna opened her laptop, logged into the finance portal, ready to approve her weekly bonus release. Yes, weekly. Because what's leadership without paying yourself every Friday? Instead, she got a red screen. Access denied. She refreshed. Same result. She restarted, slammed her mouse, tried her VPN, rebooted her laptop, whispered dark things to the IT gods. Then finally, she called help desk. Voice tight, tone tighter. Hi, I'm trying to approve my bonus package and, well, it says I don't have permissions? Pause. Then the tech replied, Yeah, that's correct. Excuse me? Access was revoked by the audit team, standard procedure per board directive. What audit team? You know. Click. She tried Dylan, straight to voicemail. What she didn't know? At that exact moment, across the city in a glass-walled office, Dylan Price sat beside Claire Brenner. A multi-tabbed spreadsheet titled Executive Irregularities open in front of them. Source: J. Price. Compiled by M. Raines. Now updated to E. Shaw confirmed. Watermarked. Indexed. Every dollar unaccounted for. Every fake intern. Every wellness vendor charging $2,200 for energy cleansing, who turned out to be a CrossFit trainer Jenna was definitely not just networking with. Claire spoke like a surgeon. Dylan nodded like a man who had seen enough. There's an entire payroll substructure under Jenna's login, Claire said. But the digital signatures don't match. Ghost accounts, falsified invoices, and an internship program that ran under a separate LLC, owned, coincidentally, by her yoga instructor. Dylan didn't flinch. He just signed the Declaration of Disclosure. What time's the board meeting? 10. Back at Ariston, Jenna stormed into the executive boardroom like a sinkhole in stilettos. What the hell is going on? She demanded. 9 board members, one long silence. The chairman cleared his throat. An internal audit has been initiated. For what? Accounting concerns, compliance, digital access anomalies. Who initiated it? Dylan Price. Her voice cracked. My husband? Your co-founder, he corrected. She laughed. Too loud, too long. Then she slammed the table. Flat palm. Sharp echo. This is a witch hunt. You're all jealous because I cleaned house and none of you had the balls to fire dead weight. One woman flinched. One man scribbled furiously. Someone whispered, We're recording this. Jenna froze. Her face flushed, from throat to cheekbone. She stood still for 6 full seconds, then hissed, You don't know what I've done for this company. The chairman replied, We're about to find out. That afternoon, more doors slammed metaphorically than physically. Her Slack admin rights? Gone. Her expense card? Frozen. Her executive assistant? Out sick for the week. And Claire's paralegal, dressed in the world's calmest beige blazer, began sending HR folders titled Witness Statements, Anonymous, all eerily consistent, erratic leadership, verbal abuse, expense manipulation, vanishing compliance emails, interns that didn't exist, except on paper. Some statements read like clinical reports. Others like diary entries from someone finally exhaling after years underwater. A few included screenshots. HR read them all. So did legal. So did the board. Jenna had always seen herself as the apex predator in a glass tower. But she didn't realize she was the only one left with her name on the lease, and a trail of breadcrumbs soaked in kerosene. I watched it unfold like a fireworks show I didn't buy a ticket for, but somehow scored front row seats to. My new apartment sat 5 stories above a quiet coffee shop. No more beige cubicles. No more badge swipes at 7:58 a.m. just to avoid a tardy flag. No more nodding at executives who called me the glue while assigning my ideas to interns named Brett. Just me. A cat I finally actually adopted. A view. And a job offer from a competitor Jenna once dismissed as a branding farm for beans. Funny thing is, those beans gave me a signing bonus with more zeros than my last 2 years combined. The call from Claire came as I was setting up my Wi-Fi. It's done, she said. The board has everything. And in this case, everything meant 3 notarized whistleblower statements from current Ariston staff. Full access logs showing Jenna logging into dormant payroll portals at 1:17 a.m. Screenshots of unauthorized bonus approvals disguised as vendor corrections. And the cherry on top? A flagged email chain between Jenna and a shell account registered to her branding consultant, aka the CrossFit intern, with a burner Gmail and an Etsy shop selling crystal deodorant. Claire had walked into the boardroom like a litigation Valkyrie, black envelope in hand, tabs, indexes, color-coded annotations, a whole executive collapse dressed like a legal thesis. The board didn't say much. They didn't need to. That same evening, Jenna received a formal notice. Administrative leave. Pending investigation. Effective immediately. No access, no communications. Return all equipment by 5 p.m. Word is, she trashed her office in under 12 minutes, screamed at a ficus, kicked over a framed Woman of the Year plaque, and told her reflection in the lobby mirror, "You'll regret this." No one asked her who you was. Dylan had already moved out, quietly, like a man exiting a controlled burn. No drama, no suitcases on the lawn, just a neatly folded packet on their kitchen island, titled Revised Asset Division Proposal, with a post-it taped to the wine fridge. It's all yours now. By Friday, the leaks hit the press. Business blogs devoured it. COO, on leave, amid scandal. Financial inquiry, founder's divorce attorney, investigating spouse's company from strategy to subpoena. Ariston implodes from inside. I read them all, quassia in hand, grin on my face. Not because I wanted her destroyed. Not really. I just wanted to be believed, to be seen by the machine I had spent years oiling, while someone else wore the crown. Bittersweet doesn't begin to cover it. Justice is rarely clean. It's jagged, silent, and often shows up 2 weeks late, attached as a PDF. Jenna thought I'd disappear, thought I'd resign and rot in irrelevance, but instead, I became the ghost in her hard drive. And now, she was the one being erased. The glass door to HQ still bore her fingerprints when she returned. Though this time, no badge swipe, no latte with collagen powder, no assistant in tow, just Jenna, wearing last week's blazer and a grim little smile that looked like it had been practiced in the rearview mirror. The lobby had changed. Subtly, deliberately. The flowers? Gone. The receptionist? New face. Didn't recognize her. The TV screen that once ran market trends? Now displayed a crisp, white message in bold sans serif font. Welcome to a new era of compliance and risk strategy. And then she saw it. Just beneath the Ariston logo, affixed to the door of her former private meeting room. Compliance and risk strategy. C. Brenner, Eskew. She froze, mid-step, breath hitched, and for the first time in years, Jenna Price, the self-declared architect of Ariston's future, felt it. Irrelevance. Claire looked up from the HR table like she'd been expecting her. "Jenna," she said, not unkindly. Jenna stood frozen, lips parted, eyes glassy, skin drained of its boardroom bronze. She didn't speak, just dropped her purse and collapsed into the nearest chair like a marionette whose strings had finally snapped. Claire folded her hands, calm as a guillotine in sunlight. "Would you like to discuss your exit strategy?" HR didn't even flinch. The cameras were already rolling. Jenna didn't answer. Couldn't. Her throat worked around some invisible lump. Her hands clenched in her lap, nails carving half-moons into her own palms. And her eyes drifted downward toward the polished tile floor, where her reflection stared back like an accusation. Somewhere upstairs, her name was being scrubbed from the shared drive. Her permissions revoked, her title rescinded, not with drama, but with precision. The same kind of surgical precision she once thought she was known for. She hadn't lost the game. She was never playing it. She was the board, and someone had just flipped it. That night, as the city dimmed under a veil of fog and high-rise silence, Jenna sat alone in her condo, now half empty and echoing. No calls, no comms, no plan. Her phone buzzed once, just once. Voicemail, unknown number. She tapped it. My voice, calm, clear, final. You were right. I wasn't executive material. Pause. I was something worse. Click. No follow-up, no outro music, no explanation. Just silence. She sat there for a long time, phone still in hand, breathing like each inhale was a confession and every exhale was a punishment. Because by the time Jenna realized I wasn't gunning for her crown, it was already in my back pocket. She'd mistaken me for support, but I wasn't a safety net. I was a trap door. Sometimes, the most powerful move you can make in a broken system isn't rage. It isn't noise. It's documentation. It's watching everything rot from the inside, one metadata flag at a time. It's trusting the paper trail and the people who know where the bodies are buried because they buried them. Dignity isn't silence. It's strategy. And power built on shortcuts and ego? It never survives a methodical mind with receipts. I didn't burn Ariston down. I just opened a window and let the rot breathe. Now I work for a team that doesn't ask me to smile when they're stealing credit. My new job doesn't start with "we're like a family." My new office has a door that locks, and a plaque on the wall that says, "Built, not gifted." Jenna Price? She exists now only in archived emails and board minutes under legal review. Her legacy? A cautionary tale in compliance training. Sometimes I wonder if she ever replayed that brunch in her head. The mimosa, the smirk, the insult disguised as praise. If she ever realized that in that moment, when she said I was too dependable to lead, she wasn't just poking a bear. She was giving the bear a spreadsheet and a lawyer to everyone who's ever been called safe, supportive, not quite leadership material. Document everything. Wait, and when the time comes, smile and press send.